Hong Kong, November 18, 1972. The crowd didn't come to see Bruce Lee, they came to see a champion. Her name was Yuki Tanaka, 28 years old, born in Osaka, Japan, and raised inside one of the most demanding Kyokushin karate schools in the country. Her professional record said everything: 61 fights, 61 victories, 54 knockouts, not a single defeat. Asian newspapers called her the Iron Orchid. She hated that name. Flowers were fragile, she wasn't. For nearly 7 years, she had dominated every tournament she entered. 3 national championships, 2 Asian titles, 1 international grand championship. No opponent had ever lasted more than 4 minutes in the ring with her. Many never made it past the first. She wasn't famous simply because she won. She was famous because she destroyed confidence. Every fighter who stepped into the ring with her walked in believing they had a chance. Every fighter walked out questioning whether they even belonged in martial arts. She enjoyed that. In her mind, fear was the most powerful weapon available. Respect wasn't given through kindness. It was forced into people through pain. Now here's what most people never ask themselves. Have you ever walked into a room completely certain of yourself, only to realize your confidence was built on how many people you made feel small? That question matters more than you think. On the evening of November 18th, more than 4,000 spectators filled the Victoria Sports Hall in Hong Kong. The event was billed as the International Masters Demonstration. Karate, Kung Fu, Taekwondo, Muay Thai, Judo, masters from across Asia had gathered to showcase their styles. No official bouts, no prize money, only demonstrations. Bruce Lee had accepted the invitation because he wanted to speak about the future of martial arts. He planned to show speed, timing, and efficiency. Nothing more. He had no intention of fighting anyone. Outside the arena, fans pressed in from every direction. Some wanted photographs, others wanted signatures. Children simply wanted to shake his hand. Bruce greeted every single one of them, calm, relaxed, and smiling. Inside the arena, Yuki watched through a doorway. She folded her arms. "So that's Bruce Lee." One of her students nodded. "Yes, sensei," she laughed. "I expected a fighter. He looks like a movie star." Another student smiled nervously. "People say he's very fast." Yuki shook her head. "People believe movies. They don't understand real karate." She turned away. In her world, real fighters collected scars, not applause. Hour later, the demonstrations began. Masters split wooden boards. Others shattered concrete. One man drove his elbow through 6 bricks. The audience cheered every performance. Finally, Bruce Lee's name came through the loudspeakers. The arena erupted. He walked onto the floor wearing a simple black kung fu uniform. No medals, no title belt, no theatrical entrance, only quiet confidence. He bowed respectfully toward every instructor present, including Yuki. She didn't return it. Bruce noticed. He smiled anyway. His demonstration lasted only 9 minutes. He explained that speed without control was dangerous. Power without purpose was meaningless. Then came the 1-inch punch. A volunteer twice his size agreed to participate. Bruce barely moved. The man flew backward across the mat. The audience rose to their feet. Everyone stood, everyone except Yuki. She clapped once, twice, then stopped. Then she walked onto the demonstration floor before the applause had even finished. The announcer looked confused. Officials exchanged anxious glances. Yuki picked up a microphone. "Is that what impresses people now?" The crowd fell silent. Bruce turned toward her, still calm, still smiling. "You call that martial arts?" Some spectators gasped. Bruce replied politely, "It is one way of expressing martial arts." Yuki laughed loudly enough for the entire arena to hear. "No," she pointed directly at him, "that is theater." The audience shifted uncomfortably. Bruce stayed quiet. She continued, "You make performers believe they're fighters. You make children believe speed matters more than discipline. You sell illusions. You don't build warriors." Bruce bowed slightly. "Everyone is free to have an opinion." That answer irritated her deeply. She had expected anger. She wanted anger. Instead, she found stillness. She stepped closer. "If you're a real martial artist, fight me." The crowd erupted. Bruce gently shook his head. "I didn't come here to fight." She smiled coldly. "Convenient. I came to share knowledge." Violence should always be the last option. Some applauded, others simply waited. Yuki's expression hardened. You refuse because you already know the outcome. Bruce looked directly into her eyes. I refuse because I respect you, and because martial arts should bring people together, not divide them. For a brief moment, the arena almost believed it was over. Then Yuki stepped even closer, close enough for every camera to capture her face. She spoke slowly. So the famous Bruce Lee is only courageous when the cameras are rolling. The audience gasped. Bruce said nothing. You call yourself a master, but you're afraid of a woman. The noise in the arena grew louder. Bruce still didn't move. Yuki wasn't finished. She pointed toward the exit. If your students are watching right now, they should leave, because today they'll see their teacher is nothing more than a performer. Bruce closed his eyes for 1 second, then opened them again. His expression never shifted. He replied quietly, I will not fight out of pride. I will not fight because someone insults me. I will only fight if there is something worth teaching. Yuki smiled. Good, then let me be the one to teach you. She turned toward the audience, raised her hand, and declared loud enough for all 4,000 to hear. If Bruce Lee refuses this challenge, he should never call himself a martial artist again. The arena exploded. Journalists rushed forward. Photographers climbed onto chairs. Television cameras locked directly onto Bruce. For several long seconds, he said nothing. Then he slowly removed his black jacket, folded it carefully, placed it on a chair beside the mat, looked directly at Yuki, and spoke just 7 words. I hope you're ready to learn as well. The entire arena went silent. Nobody realized that Bruce Lee had already started studying her long before the first move would ever be made. Bruce Lee stepped barefoot onto the mat, not quickly, not dramatically, as though he were entering a classroom instead of a confrontation. The 4,000 people inside Victoria Sports Hall became completely still. Even the photographers stopped talking. Yuki stood across from him, eyes unblinking. She had expected hesitation, fear, excuses. Instead, Bruce looked at peace. That irritated her even more. The referee stepped between them. This is a demonstration only, no intentional injuries. Stop immediately if either fighter requests it. Bruce nodded. Yuki barely listened. State your names. Yuki Tanaka. The referee turned. And you? Bruce smiled. Bruce Lee Bow. Bruce bowed immediately, deeply, respectfully. Yuki barely lowered her head. The audience noticed. Bruce noticed too, but said nothing. As the referee stepped back, Bruce raised one hand. Before we begin. Yuki frowned. What now? We don't have to do this. The crowd murmured. Yuki laughed, afraid already. Bruce shook his head. No, I simply don't believe proving who is stronger makes either of us better. She smiled coldly. You still have time to walk away. I would rather walk away than leave someone injured. The words moved through the arena. Some applauded, others waited in silence. Yuki looked directly at him. You think you're better than me? Bruce answered immediately. No, I think we're both students. That sentence made her furious. I am nobody's student. The moment we believe we've finished learning, we stop growing. She smiled without warmth. You'll regret saying that. Bruce exhaled softly. I hope not. The referee raised his hand. Ready. Bruce nodded. Yuki was already moving. She exploded forward with no hesitation, no testing. A spinning roundhouse kick aimed directly at Bruce's head. The crowd gasped. Bruce didn't block. He simply leaned back. The kick passed less than an inch from his face. Whispers spread across the arena. Yuki landed and attacked again without pausing. Front kick, back fist, low kick, reverse punch. Bruce moved around every single strike, never counterattacking, never throwing a punch. Only watching, learning, calculating every movement, every breath, every shift in balance. 3 attacks, 5, 8, 12, nothing connected, not because Bruce was faster, but because he was reading, watching, solving her like a problem he hadn't finished working through yet. Yuki grew frustrated. Nobody had ever treated her offense this way. Most opponents panicked. Bruce looked relaxed, almost curious, as though every attack was answering a question he hadn't finished asking. The audience began whispering among themselves, "Why isn't Bruce attacking? Is he waiting? Is he hurt?" Only one elderly kung fu master seated in the front row smiled. He leaned toward the man beside him and whispered, "He's gathering information. She's burning energy." Yuki attacked harder. Her combinations grew longer, more forceful, less precise. Exactly what Bruce had been waiting for. A sidekick struck his thigh. The impact echoed through the hall. For the first time, Bruce felt real pain. His leg shook slightly. The audience cheered. Yuki smiled. "There, I finally reached you." Bruce nodded with genuine respect. "Good kick." She frowned. "Stop complimenting me. I'm complimenting the technique. I'm not your student." "No, but you're still teaching me." She yelled with frustration, then charged again, throwing everything she had. Punches, elbows, knees, roundhouse kicks, hook kicks, every sequence she had spent 20 years perfecting. Bruce didn't retreat. He moved with the fight. Sometimes left, sometimes right, sometimes forward, sometimes barely moving at all. Every strike missed by the smallest margin possible. The audience couldn't process what they were seeing. It looked almost impossible. 5 minutes passed. Bruce still hadn't thrown a single serious strike. Yuki, however, was breathing hard. Sweat ran down her face. Her shoulders had begun to rise, a quiet sign of exhaustion. Bruce noticed. He spoke low enough that only she could hear, "You're fighting your anger now." She answered through clenched teeth, "I'm fighting you." Bruce shook his head. "No, you stopped fighting me 2 minutes ago. You've been fighting your own emotions ever since." Those words landed harder than any punch, because deep inside, she knew he was right. She stepped back for the first time, trying to slow her breathing, trying to understand why nothing was working. Bruce stayed exactly where he was, hands relaxed, eyes calm, waiting, not attacking, never chasing. The audience had shifted completely. They no longer wanted a knockout. They wanted to understand how Bruce Lee was controlling an entire fight without throwing a single punch. Yuki finally asked him quietly, "Why won't you fight me?" Bruce answered gently, "I am." She stared. "No, you haven't attacked once." Winning isn't always about striking. Sometimes it's about understanding. Yuki looked confused, then angry again. "No more talking. This ends now." She dropped into her lowest stance, the one reserved for finishing fights, the one that had never failed her. Her students rose from their seats the moment they recognized it. Whenever Sensei entered this position, the match ended within seconds. Bruce saw the shift immediately. For the first time since stepping onto the mat, his expression turned serious. He whispered quietly to himself, "So this is the technique." He had finally seen everything he needed. And in the next few seconds, for the first time in the fight, Bruce Lee was going to move forward. Yuki dropped low. Every martial artist in the arena recognized what that meant. It was her closing stance, the one she kept only for one purpose, ending fights. Her students immediately stood from their seats. They had seen this before. When Sensei entered this position, the match was already decided. Bruce saw it too. He inhaled slowly, then exhaled. His heartbeat never changed. The referee sensed the tension shift and moved closer. "If either fighter feels unsafe, I will stop this immediately." Neither responded. Their eyes stayed locked on each other. For the first time in nearly 7 minutes, Bruce raised both hands, not aggressively, not theatrically, simply ready. The audience noticed instantly. A ripple of whispers moved across the arena. "He's finally going to fight." Yuki smiled. "There you are. I was starting to wonder if you knew how." Bruce replied calmly, "I was waiting until you finished introducing yourself." She frowned. "What does that mean?" He looked directly at her. "For 7 minutes, you showed me your patterns, your rhythm, your breathing, your balance. You've already told me everything." That unsettled her. Nobody had ever spoken to her that way. Without warning, she came forward faster than at any point in the fight. A spinning hook kick followed immediately by a reverse punch, then a jumping knee. 3 techniques, under 2 seconds. The audience couldn't track them. Bruce moved, not backward, forward. The distance collapsed. Her kick missed. Her punch struck empty air. Her knee never arrived. For the first time, someone had entered the space she considered untouchable. Yuki's eyes went wide. Impossible. Nobody had ever closed that distance. Bruce whispered calmly, "Too much commitment." Then he stepped away again, still without striking. The audience erupted. Some couldn't believe what they had just seen. Others simply stared, trying to work out what had happened. Yuki became desperate. Years of undefeated certainty began coming apart. She attacked again, harder, faster, with more emotion than precision. Every missed strike slowed her further. Every failed combination took another piece of her confidence with it. An elderly master near the ring leaned toward his grandson and said quietly, "Watch carefully. The strongest fighter is no longer Bruce. The strongest fighter is patience." Yuki charged again, this time shouting as she came forward. Bruce stepped aside quietly. Her own momentum carried her forward. She barely kept her balance. Bruce looked at her steadily. "I've told you 3 times to stop. You don't need to prove anything to anyone here." She glared. "Stop talking. I don't want to hurt you." The words reached every corner of the hall. Yuki heard them as arrogance. The audience heard compassion. "You think I'm weak?" she shouted. Bruce shook his head. "No, I think you're angry, and anger blinds even the most gifted fighters." Her face went red. "I'll make you regret every word." She rushed him again. This time Bruce finally responded, not with force, with timing. His lead hand redirected her wrist with the smallest movement. His shoulder turned only slightly. His foot shifted just a few inches. Suddenly Yuki was completely off balance. She stumbled past him. The audience gasped. Bruce didn't chase, didn't strike, he simply waited. Yuki stopped, breathing hard, sweat falling onto the mat, her chest moving rapidly. Bruce's breath remained slow, almost peaceful. She stared at him. "You could have hit me." Bruce nodded. "Yes." "Why didn't you?" "Because winning isn't my goal." "Then what is?" Bruce smiled. "Helping you understand." Those words struck harder than any technique could have. Silence settled over the entire arena. For a moment, Yuki almost let her guard down. Almost. Then pride came back. She couldn't accept it. Not in front of 4,000 people. Not after everything she had said in front of the cameras. She shouted and came forward with everything remaining in her body. One final attack. One final attempt. Bruce watched it happen carefully. He had seen this exact movement dozens of times already during the fight. Now he knew precisely where it would finish. The instant Yuki planted her front foot, Bruce stepped inside. Not quickly, perfectly timed. His fist stopped less than an inch from her chest. Never connecting, never touching, but Yuki froze. She understood. If that strike had continued, the fight was already over. Bruce lowered his hand quietly. "You've lost nothing today. You've gained a lesson." For the first time in her career, Yuki lowered her eyes. Not from pain, from understanding. But before anyone could speak, a voice from the crowd cut through the silence. "Finish her, Bruce." Hundreds joined immediately. "Knock her out. End it. Show everyone who's the best." Bruce slowly turned toward the audience. His expression changed. Not anger, disappointment. What he said next would stay with every person inside Victoria Sports Hall for the rest of their lives. He raised one hand. The arena gradually settled into silence. Even the reporters lowered their cameras. Bruce looked across the entire building before speaking. His voice was calm, yet every word found the back row. "You came here to witness martial arts." A pause, "But some of you are asking for revenge." No one responded. Bruce continued, "They are not the same thing." The arena went completely still. He turned back toward Yuki. She stood only a few feet away. Her breathing was heavy. Her certainty was gone. For the first time in nearly a decade, she didn't know what step came next. Bruce walked toward her, not as a threat, not as a celebration, simply walking. He stopped directly in front of her, then he extended his hand. Yuki looked at it. She couldn't process what she was seeing. "You," she whispered, "you're offering me your hand." Bruce smiled. "If I wanted to defeat you, I would have done it several minutes ago." He steadied her into a balanced stance. The audience watched in complete silence. Bruce looked into her eyes. There is something more dangerous than losing a fight. Yuki asked quietly, "What?" "Losing your humility." She looked down. Bruce continued, "When we stop respecting others, we stop improving ourselves." Yuki's eyes filled. She wasn't crying because she had nearly lost the fight. She was crying because someone had finally defeated her pride instead of her body. Bruce placed a hand lightly on her shoulder, then spoke the words that would appear in newspapers across the region. "Strength without respect is weakness." The sentence moved through the silent hall. Nobody applauded, nobody stirred, they simply listened. Bruce continued, "You are genuinely talented. You have trained your body for years, but your greatest opponent," he touched his own chest, "has always lived here." Yuki closed her eyes. She understood. Her greatest opponent had never been another fighter. It had been her own ego. Bruce stepped back and added one final lesson, one that many reporters would later print across Asia. Never humiliate another human being. A pause. One day you will face someone stronger, and when that day arrives, you will wish you had chosen respect instead of pride. Tears moved down Yuki's face. She bowed her head, not because the crowd expected it, because something inside told her she had to. Slowly, she performed the deepest bow of her entire career, a bow she had never offered to any opponent. Bruce returned it without hesitation, bowing just as deeply. The audience broke into applause, not because someone had won, because they had just witnessed something larger than victory. The referee walked to the center of the mat. He looked at both fighters, then quietly raised neither hand. "There is no winner tonight," he smiled, "only two martial artists." The crowd responded even louder. After the event concluded, journalists surrounded Bruce. One reporter asked, "Mr. Lee, why didn't you knock her out when you had the opportunity?" Bruce smiled, "Because my goal was never to defeat her. My goal was to help her become better." Another asked, "Weren't you angry after everything she said about you?" Bruce answered, "If another person's words can control your actions, they have already defeated you." Every reporter wrote that down. Across the hallway, Yuki sat alone in the empty changing room. Her championship belt rested on the bench beside her. For the first time, it felt unimportant. She replayed every moment of the fight, every missed strike, every warning Bruce had offered, every opportunity he had refused to use against her. She finally understood something. Bruce hadn't defeated her in the final exchange. He had defeated her the moment he chose compassion over retaliation. The following morning, newspapers across Hong Kong ran the story. Many expected headlines about an extraordinary fight. Instead, the largest headline read, "Bruce Lee wins without seeking victory." Another newspaper printed, "The greatest strike was never thrown." Months later, Yuki changed how she taught her students entirely. The opening lesson in every class was no longer how to punch. It was how to bow. Every new student heard the same words on their first day. Power is simple to develop. Character is not. Whenever students asked why, she smiled and pointed toward a framed photograph on the dojo wall. It showed Bruce Lee and Yuki standing side by side after the demonstration. Both smiling, both bowing, no trophy, no belt, only mutual respect. Years later, one student finally asked, "Sensei, who taught you the most important lesson of your life?" Yuki looked at the photograph, smiled quietly, then answered, "A man who could have broken me, but chose to build me instead." She paused, "And that is the difference between a fighter and a true martial artist."